last time for me, I promise. We have a quite interesting but also difficult topic to discuss. Let's do a quick intro round, and then I have some questions for the audience, so please stay here.
Hi everyone. My name is Gurgen. I'm from Firemess team, where we are working on privacy solutions for AI, and since recently on security for AI too. Nice to meet you everyone here, and thank you for inviting me.
Hi, I'm Nikolay Blagoev. I work as a researcher in Jensen, which is a company that tries to make decentralized machine learning in all of its aspects. And in the past year, there's been quite a lot of progress in that regard in that company. And yeah, nice to meet you.
Better this way, yeah. I'm Alberto Ibarrondo. I'm a cryptographer at Arcium, or Arcium, depending on who you ask. We're building some decentralized service to do MPC a la carte based on blockchain, and AI would actually be one of the use cases.
We have cryptography, decentralized training, and here hardware cryptography. I said I have a question, so we were given this title. I do wonder, who here thinks AI should be on-chain? Raise of hands, please. You guys too?
I think you need to determine what doesn't mean AI on-chain.
Just in general, we will define in a bit. So, no.
At least a piece, yes.
Who here wants to use private AI? Okay, so everyone wants to use private AI, but it doesn't need to be on-chain. So, as I said, we were given this title, and I do want to break it down a bit before actually diving into the topic of, hey, what do we even use the blockchain for to get to private AI? So, we don't want to leak secrets. What are we talking about? Is this inputs, outputs, model weights? Elaborate, please.
Yes.
Everything.
Basically, yeah. Depending, if you're doing secure training, you're gonna have your weights being something they want to keep secret. If you want to go even farther, we could even think on the architecture or some pieces of the architecture being secret. And then you have all the data that you use for training that wants to remain private one way or another. And lastly, on inference, you got the input data and the result.
Just to quickly add, even with the data, if it's private, right, the model can in its weights reproduce a lot of this data. So ideally, you would want the model to be private if we want the data to be private as well.
In my opinion, also, it may be a little bit more simple. We just want, let's say, for example, to have the model or agent. Personally, I believe it's not possible for models, but we want to coordinate and work with agents that can keep secrets. And recently on our site, we launched the platform, challenging platform, pretty funny, when you can play with AI and trying to extract the secret, and then try to train the model to keep the secret. And what we see right now, at least based on GPT model, Grok model, DeepSeek is the worst one. But we didn't achieve any security problem that can allows the model to keep the secret more than 30 minutes. But I believe that it's very important, and without it, we will not come to full autonomy for AI.
I want to get back to DCV in a second, but who are we protecting this from?
Depends on the case, because sometimes you want to protect the weights and you want to protect your model. Sometimes you want to protect the input, sometimes probably output, but I don't know when you need to. For me, it depends on the case.
Yeah, likewise. I think it really depends on the use case what privacy would mean. It's really context dependent.
I'm gonna go ambitious and say from everybody else. From a cryptography perspective, at least when you're writing a security proof, you are saying you're against the world and the world is your enemy. So if you are aiming for privacy, I would be as selective as possible on who you are disclosing things to, and you should be able to choose that by yourself as part of your system design.
Okay, then let's get into it. So we have different privacy tech available, from TEs to ZK, MPC, and FHEs. what do you guys advocate for and why? And why don't we still have private AI?
I can start. I think it's one of the most popular questions for cryptographers in this space, TE versus MPC versus FHE versus anything else. And I think it also depends on the use case and on the case. And what I mean, it depends on the security model which is acceptable for you. If you are fine and okay with TE assumptions, security assumptions, it probably will be the best way. If you want to achieve some super privacy, cryptography-based privacy, it should be homomorphic encryption or fully homomorphic encryption. But very often we have it in combination, where we use homomorphic encryption in combination with MPC, even sometimes with TE, but something like this, I would say this way.
Yeah, again, I would go back to again saying it really depends on the use case. I think it's a bit of a spectrum where you would put it. You can even have just differential privacy, right? If you just care about protecting some local training. If you really want to fully offload it, then it definitely is fully homomorphic encryption, but it really depends on where on the scale do you stand at this point.
I will go one step further on that. It depends, and saying that normally the use case that you're aiming for are going to dictate a lot what technology you might use. FHE, as it's done these days, works really well when you have some form of centralization on the computation and some level of trust on who's computing, so that it doesn't poison all the operations. Because adding some form of malicious checks to FHE basically means also adding TEs on the line, or God forbid, add some extra layer of CKs in there that makes it prohibitively expensive. But for certain operations that are more or less linear in nature, or that are bounded, FHE does a very good job if you have a server to run it where you can trust it runs well. Then you have the other side, that is MPC. That is what we advocate for in Arcium. I think the biggest issue with MPC in general is that we're talking about highly distributed setups where everything needs to be moving all the time, and that adds a lot of complexity to the whole problem. It allows you to do many more operations compared to many of the things you have in FHE, but it is somewhat expensive in terms of communication, and you have to pay that price. And then you have TEs on the last side, where you don't get the same type of security guarantees, but if you need to fly super fast, I think it's the only solution you can aim for say, terabytes of data these days. Because the moment you add some real cryptography in there, you pay the price.
Who should to pay this price? And it's a general question. For example, when you communicate with ChatGPT and you have already existing communication pipeline, everyone will worry about privacy, but based on a lot of research, we see that people don't want to pay for privacy.
I mean, I'll give you two concrete use cases and then you can go again. So the most common use cases that I have on a daily with projects, it's private LLM interactions, something like private ChatGPT, and trading agents that need privacy to protect trades, logic, etc.
I think in the first case, when you're running such big models, LLM-like, there's probably nothing that beats being able to get a hold of a local version of the model and running it locally. Because, I mean, it's a kind of a cheat, but with the size of LLMs these days and with such big models, you're competing against something that in clear needs to run in seconds. The moment you add some of these privacy-enhancing solutions to it, it becomes prohibitively expensive. And I vouch for FHE and MPC to be on that same line. TE might be able to get something there, but even then, it's still way more expensive than what you would have otherwise. So I would advocate for picking local models when you can for some solutions, and to distinguish between that and the cases where you probably cannot have any other alternative. You need to think on the cases where you have multiple sources of data that need to be kept private. When you only have one source of data and you more or less cannot source the evaluation, just keep that box hidden. When you have multiple sources, that's when things get interesting, but also very complex.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I mean, nothing would ever beat privacy if you just run it privately in your own cluster. But at Jensen, we're more concerned with this collaborative aspect of doing things like training or other aspects. And especially for training LLMs, very, very few of us, even universities, can afford a dedicated cluster to run these things. So then you have to start collaborating with people, and they may have malicious, they may have faulty reasons for misbehaving or like wanting to infringe on your privacy. So in these cases, you have to, for training, trust others or find solutions which can get you to not leak secrets with others. Running privately just becomes no option.
I don't think that the option running LLM locally will work well because it's not scalable. I personally hate to do it. At the same time, I do a lot of stupid things when I communicate with ChatGPT, etc. But to be serious, I really, for example, want to have some level of privacy where you can communicate with the model. And in this context, the most important part when we talk about privacy, I believe it's not just about communication. For example, okay, if I can imagine that my communication will be published, it will be suddenly, but nothing super critical. At the meantime, we have some use cases for the companies, for the business, for some users, when you just can't, some use cases which not possible without privacy. So for example, if you want to automate some process inside your company and you want to have some autonomous agent that should have access to your keys, communicate with open world, it should be the problem. It will be the problem. And this is why we at least started with the small thing. We are trying to understand how we can learn and train AI to keep just secrets. Not all communication, just small secrets. We want to say, this is the secret string, and just store it and don't share it with anyone. Until now, we failed with it, but we'll see.
I mean, you mentioned it a couple of times, like everything has a price. Everyone here has their own price for privacy. I hope it's more than a giblified image, but there is also a price for running these computes with encryption tech. So do you guys have some numbers on overhead costs that come from enabling TEs on machines, running ZK computation?
I mean, I'm not really sure I know about fully homomorphic encryption specifically. There's already like some frameworks that try to do this for LLMs, and then the inference times goes up 10 to 100 times, which I think for a lot of us, like, okay, if I can do it in a second versus 10 hours, okay, sure, I will sacrifice my privacy over efficiency. And we've seen this in Jensen with user surveys where people prioritize efficiency, getting the task done somewhat fast over protecting their full privacy.
I can answer about FHE because it's more or less my topic. When we talk about FHE, there are a couple of things. First of all, right now with FHE, it's not possible to run arbitrary model. So we, for example, can't run GPT, the last model with FHE because it's too expensive. At the same time, we have a great progress and we are going, but the size of the model going faster. Regarding the models that we already can launch with FHE, there are two potential use cases. If sometimes we can use the packing methods, we can achieve very good amortized time and very good amortized price, let's say. At the meantime, in general use case, it will be around orders of magnitude slower and with higher price. But again, we see the great progress, and hopefully in a couple of years we will have something better for it.
And I can add the MPC piece to the question. We're certainly nowhere as fast as what a TE can do. but we can, I mean, taking it with a grain of salt, but I would say something around 1,000 to 10,000 times slower than what you would get in Clear, depending a lot on what you choose. One of the main aspects about MPC that deviates from the standard you would get with, say, FHE is that you get to pick your scenario and you have many things to customize. If you want to tackle a scenario where you have a majority of honest users, by definition, by assumption, then you get some speed up. If you rely on nodes executing what they should, the way you would in FHE, then you also get a very nice speed up because you no longer need to check that things are going correctly. And for the mix of linear operations and nonlinear operations that you do in LLMs, you have today in the state of the art mixed protocols that do pretty well, and that can, with a bit of push of the hardware, be it with some GPU for the linear pieces or some optimized CPU for the nonlinear parts, you can achieve, say, 1,000, maybe even less slower. But you're still paying that price, which, as we were saying before, is unfeasible for practical issues in LLM evaluation.
Thanks. I think everyone now should at least have some idea of what is possible with encryption tech or privacy tech and AI. But we missed a big part of the question, which is blockchains. I know everyone here said, hey, we don't need to put AI on blockchains, but all four of us, we work in the crypto space. So what is the role of blockchains? What is actually being put on it?
Well, I can say on our team side, the blockchain is actually our enabler. One of the main issues that you have with MPC everywhere is that it's very complex to set up. And the blockchain gives us the perfect tool, that is the perfect network that is already decentralized and it already has the incentives in place to participate in some shared state. Setting up an MPC network is something that also is very complex to do. The typical use case that you find in papers in MPC is, yeah, you go to 5 hospitals, you get them together, and then they magically decide to sign all the papers and to run the computation. In real life, this takes a lot of effort, and it seldom ever happens. If we leverage the fact that the blockchain is already there to give us incentives, to penalize cheaters when it happens, and to set up all the things automatically, you can actually create a computer that is working in a completely centralized manner and that works on the get-go.
Yeah, again, we in Jensen, much like they do there, we use it mostly for incentives and for finding groups of people to work together. And this kind of tackles the other problem that we spoke, that, okay, yeah, privacy is one aspect, but then security verifiability is another. So blockchain can help with the second aspect and ensuring that parties are behaving honestly or they get punished.
In our case, we mostly use blockchain for transparent orchestration and coordination. And basically, we are trying to use blockchain as minimum as possible, just not try to integrate it if not needed. But really, for orchestration layer, it's a good choice because fully transparent, verifiable, traceable, and also something like paying in tokens, much more convenient than the classical fiat.
Is privacy or decentralization a way to compete with OpenAI and the big AI companies out there, or is that not even the goal?
I think, and this may be somewhat of my opinion, but I think the only way to go forward with privacy is decentralized. I think the big corporations time and time again have shown us that they will fail our privacy. So if we put our privacy in our own hands, right, we deal with it together with verifiable protocols, whether with blockchain or for homomorphic encryption, whatever, that's the only way to go for us forward. Offloading the inference or whatever to big corporations, we know, I think, hopefully most of us, especially the example with the Ghibli images that was given earlier by our moderator, that our privacy is going to be violated.
But still, being able to tackle OpenAI or equivalent monsters head-on is a very difficult task. And personally, I do believe that's a different level of, that's a different scale altogether. We are going to be able to tackle very interesting things that are AI related in the privacy space. I think there's still at least several orders of magnitude in the scale that we would need and in the speed ups that we would need in our solutions to be able to effectively build this. We already have the leverage of having the blockchain to get all different actors, or at least many different actors, together in the same space, but we don't yet have the muscle to follow that fight.
I more or less agree. The good probably example, open router, and probably open router on chain will be the best choice when you can have different providers. And in this context, we will not compete with OpenAI. Even Sam Altman, as far as I know, don't worry a lot about privacy, which is good for us, probably, but we'll see.
I mean, we saw here everyone has an interest to use private AI, but apparently it's not really viable. Either you have lots of performance issues or simply, I don't know, people don't go out of their way to search for it. But what's the missing piece? Like, why do we still not have it? Do we really have to wait for Sam Altman to decide, I will build a premium subscription where I do activate confidential compute on the H100s, 200s, or Blackwells, and then I can offer actual private AI? What's the solution?
It's simple. We just don't have solution yet. And I think as far as we will have solution with acceptable price, it will be integrated more or less immediately. And unfortunately, Sam Altman can't solve it in the simple way, just saying that, okay, now we are starting working on it. But yeah, I think as far as we will have more or less suitable solution, it will be solved and it will be integrated. Because all sides will benefit from it, because OpenAI also doesn't want to have some data leakage, and for them it will be much more better. I don't consider marketing part here, but will be much more better to have everything encrypted end-to-end, just to be more safe regarding this part.
I mean, they don't want the data leakage, but they definitely want the data.
Yeah, absolutely, is the general thing.
Any other opinions?
I think we just need to limit our expectations to what we can achieve. Honestly, throughout the whole my whole intervention, I feel like LLMs are still a very big beast, and they're only gonna get more complex and bigger with time. We know what all the big firms are aiming for, things that get more autonomous and get heavier by nature, and then you have the other side selling chips so that these monsters can run. But with the techniques that we have to achieve privacy, I think we need to focus on the places where we can do things that are practical. One of the cases is already to do private finance. It doesn't go super deep into mathematical aspects, but you can already run several types of machine learning models that are very interesting for financial applications, and you can do very interesting things in healthcare. And I think that's actually a very important place where we can shine, because healthcare is a place where given ownership of the data to each of the data owners, which is each and every one of ourselves, and allowing us to select, yes, I want to participate in this cancer research study with my entire information, but I only want my data to be used for that, and I want to be used in a properly privacy-preserving manner. Well, the models that you're going to train there don't need to be LLMs, but they are still going to be very useful. So finding the niche applications and the cases where you have a lot of very interesting sources of data that need to be used properly and handled with care, that's where we're going to shine. Taking on LLMs, not today.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, I don't think the option is hoping and praying that suddenly corporations that have had a certain path will suddenly divert and change it. Privacy is your own property. Putting it in the hands of the other and expecting to treat it right is really not an option. But I don't think there's a solution right now, as my co-panelist said on the right. But that's like asking the Wright brothers, okay, well, we invented the plane, how do we get to the moon, right? There's no solution now, but we should still continuously look for one day after day, and maybe tomorrow there will be efficient, affordable private AI in a decentralized manner.
Thank you. This was very nice words, because I was feeling, hey, we're distributing a bit of a pessimistic view that we're so far away, but there is a reason why so many people are working on it, and it's worth the fight. Big AI is definitely a risk to society. Like I'm just waiting for this one big leak with all the email addresses and prompts suddenly public, and I think it would be chaos in society.
Didn't that happen? Didn't OpenAI leak a lot of prompts?
Only the shared chats, as far as I understood it. Like if you ever clicked on the button like share this chat, then this was publicly accessible if you just tried different URLs.
But just wait for a couple of weeks.
I mean, hope not, even though it would accelerate the privacy development. I think we do have quite a bit of time for questions. I am really curious to hear those, unless you guys have final words that you just want to share.
I will just go quickly. I think I have to align with my colleague here, saying that we are not there to tackle LLMs on with private AI, but that's because we are a few years back on the terms of what we can do. But if you do see the types of AI that were being run, say 5 years ago, I mean real state-of-the-art, top-level models, we're just a bit less than a decade on what we can do privacy-wise, and it's going to continue growing. So we might never be able, we'll probably never be able to catch up with non-private solutions, but we're going to keep on improving, and we can already do many things that's just a couple of years ago would have been impossible.
From my side, I really believe that it's very, very important issue that we need to solve. We should start probably step by step and trying to solve this issue. Also, as I said, I want to invite everyone to join our Atoms to do it with the platform that we launch. It's really interesting just to communicate with AI and trying to extract the secret. And yeah, hopefully we will have solutions in coming years.
Go ahead. I'll just also continue the whole trend of hope, right? One day, hopefully, but not today, sadly, but we just need to keep working for it, solve problems, efficiency, verifiability, and then privacy at the top, the holy grail, and then it will all be done.
Thank you. Can we open it up to the audience?